Welcome to Stakeholders Podcast, brought to you in conjunction with Boehringer Ingelheim. Before we go into the detail today, we would just like to mention the sudden passing of David Barton, Chair of NFU Livestock Board. I suppose a close friend to many of us. We'd worked closely with him over the last number of years, and just a really sad, shocking situation, and our thoughts go out to his wife Shuri and the close immediate family. It's just really sad, generally just very sad.
If I can add into that, Neil, we travelled with him earlier on in the year, and they're just fantastic company. He's such a fun guy to spend time with. Obviously, enormously knowledgeable, and it is an enormous loss to the industry.
Yeah, so we happened to be in Nashville at the same time as David and his wife. So yeah, at least there's fond memories of that to carry forward. So yeah, moving on. It's just the three of us today. Shona is on holiday. Her out of office said she'll be back on the 1st of April. I'm kind of hoping that's a typo and she'll be back on the 1st of August. But Shona, if you're out there listening on your holidays, if this is the case, then have a great break and we'll see you next year, I guess. But hopefully we don't have to wait as long as that. I'm going to start with Bluetongue and ask people to have a look at gov.uk, Bluetongue updates. The first case was announced just a couple of weeks ago of what we call the new season in England. The case rate is growing very, very quickly. Clinical signs, sheep dying. There's been, mortality this time. The early indications are this could be quite scary this year compared to what we've seen in the past. A lot of it down sort of Devon, North Somerset, edge of Cornwall, also Staffordshire and Cheshire, as we saw in the last year as well. But, it's probably not too late to vaccinate in some people's cases. The further north you are, it's here, it's coming. So my message would be, keep a lookout. If you're not sure, contact your private vet, but be very, very vigilant. So, yeah, so that's where we are. One final thing, just a sort of little plug for the NBA. We wrote a bit of an open letter to processors and retailers the middle of May, challenged them on the beef price. I probably need to make the point that the beef price has stabilised and gone up since that letter went out. So visit www.nationalbeefassociation.com if you want to become a member, because that's the power we can carry. So, James, Ben, what have you guys been up to?
So we've done our harvest. We've finished our wheat harvest now. A little bit disappointing, I'm going to say, but with the lack of rain, what are you going to do? So we had 2.5 inches in June, which probably saved us from a disaster. So we're averaging, I know, mixing my units, which is an awful thing, but we're averaging about 3 tons an acre. So someone else can work out what that is per hectare. Currently terrified of fire. So our neighbour on one side, he lost, fortunately it was just stubble, but he lost some stubble the other day. The guy who works for me, Dan, his grass field set a fire with 20 cattle in the field. He managed to get them out. I'm seeing quite a lot of fires up around Milton Keynes, Bedford Way. So I've got some more topping to do, but with all the flints we have around here, I'm really, really anxious to go and whip the tops off some of these thistles because it's just a tinderbox out here. Sold a bit of our wheat just this morning. Wheat's gone up and hit £200 a tonne for December, which is one of my sort of benchmarks to start shifting a bit. So that's a whole lot better than the sort of 168 I was offered only a month, 6 weeks ago. So yeah, cows are all a bit hungry, desperate for that wheat straw to come off and start buffer feeding them with that, because I haven't got enough hay to have been feeding them the last week or two when I probably should have been. Yeah, that's me. How about you, James?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty busy here. We've not actually started any sort of combining yet. We obviously don't have crops ourselves, but we have straw off the neighbours, and they've not turned up yet because we're on spring barley and they're a week, 10 days off. So that's one good thing. It's meant that we've been able to get hay and silage and everything else out of the way to give us a bit of breathing room, which is good. Hay and silage has been all right this year for us. We did, again, same as you, we had a couple of inches in beginning of June, which again saved us, but it's been very dry and very hot since then. I think the one difference I've noticed this year to last year was it's been so hot as opposed to just being dry, whereas last year it was dry and I think it carried us through a little bit further because it wasn't as hot. So we got to sort of September time before we really burnt up here, and we were about a week before we actually got some rain, whereas this year it is burning up behind cows. And I think we've got 50 days of grazing ahead of cows, which I'm hoping will be enough to carry us through, but there is nothing behind. We're getting no regrowth whatsoever, other than on the herbal lays we're having, a bit of chicory and bird's foot trefoil and your deep rooting stuff, red clover, and that's coming back, but no grass whatsoever. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I think I was talking to someone the other day about how every year for the last 5 years we've been saying like, oh yeah, but next year it'll be different. We're chucking down with rain, but we're still in the same situation. So it's probably going to become a little bit of coin a COVID term, a new normal. Yeah, but otherwise, cows looking good, calves are looking good. Everything seems to thrive when it's hot. Although they get a bit stressed when it is hot, but when it's dry and sunny, they do seem to enjoy it. So yeah, otherwise it's not too bad.
So James, explain to me 50 days of grazing.
Yeah, so if anyone who doesn't know, who's not listened or doesn't know us at all, we measure our grass sort of weekly. And we go around with a plate meter, we know how much grass we've got, and then based upon the allocation that we're giving to cows and how much they're demanded, so that's the amount that we're using every day, we then will know what we've got on farm. So we can look at our average farm cover and how much that is compared to how much we're using, and that'll give us an indication as then how many days we've got going on, how much we're growing, to sort of ahead of us as a buffer. So if it doesn't grow in the next 25, 30 days, we'll probably start then to look at putting some feed in. So we've got 2 weeks of buffer ahead of us. So we've got something there, hopefully to give us some regrowth when we do get some rain.
And so when you get rain, so how much rain do you need to make that 50 days, 60 days? And, Ben's looking at this 50 days thinking, I wish I had 5 days, never mind 50 days.
Yeah, 5 minutes, mate, would do me right now.
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends on how long your dry period's gone. But, I mean, we're on quite heavy clay. We do hold to moisture. But then we get the other end, when we do get some rain, it doesn't sort of have the impact straight away. So, yeah, I mean, if we got a good inch or two, it would start and green up a little bit, I think. And then just a bit of consistency more than anything would be nice. It doesn't need to be a lot. It just needs to be consistent.
Yeah. So, as often mentioned by me, James, you're a far better farmer than I am, and I haven't got that 50 days ahead of me. But what I am noticing, though, is my Salers appear to live well off fresh air.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot going on in their fields in terms of what they've got left to eat, but they're incredibly fit.
Yeah,
my Charolais are doing okay, but the Salers are doing really well.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably because they're naturally a bit more fleshy, aren't they? That's just the type of breed, that more of a maternal breed, I suppose. And they just therefore they seem to be a bit easier fleshy and carry it a little bit better.
Yeah, they seem to be loving it.
Yeah, I mean ours are the same. Ours, if you looked at the cows, you wouldn't think we had the sort of grass ahead that we've got, or the lack of grass, I should say, or quality of grass. You'd think they'd be struggling a bit more, but yeah, it's they're doing really well.
So James, is there a point this year in a season like this that you will go round the back of the shed and see if you've still got a creep feeder?
No, I won't put, not necessarily for the calves, mainly because not that I'm against creep, but just because on our system where we're moving so often, trying to work out with a creep feeder just becomes difficult. So what I'd mainly be doing is more supplementing the cows if I was going to supplement anything. So I'd be putting some hay in or something like that. That's what I'd probably look at doing as opposed to feeding them or feeding the cows, some sort of a supplement as well, like maybe a bit of cake or something. But the growing stock getting a little bit of cake, but that's because that was always the plan with those. So they're getting a couple of kilos of cake, but they were going to get that regardless.
So I've just started creeping this last week, just because there is no grass left at all. So my autumn calvers, they've done well up to this point, and they've not had any creep at all, and they're only now a month or so off weaning probably. But I'm going to point to these things, which I'm not getting paid to say, but I put some monials on my cattle that are in that autumn calving group just to try them out. And one of the problems I've always had with my shag ewes is because they're greedy little buggers and smaller, they love to break a creep and get in there and eat the creep. So I've put an exclusion zone around my creep using my monials, and now the shag ewes aren't bothering it anymore. The calves are actually getting the creep. Again, I'm not being paid for this, and I blooming should be, but these things are fantastic. I can't wait to get this next 6 on and just see how it works.
I mean, if they don't want to pay you, Ben, they can pay the NBA. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Yeah,
that is clever though. They're the kind of things like you see them no fence collars or whatever, and you think, oh, it's great for fencing, but they're the little bits, aren't they, that you don't realise. That's just clever though. Great idea.
Yeah,
Brilliant
handy.
idea.
So Ben, you're using those to keep your cows. You've got challenges in your area because people have got pliers and they keep cutting wires. So and you can keep manage your stock in a safe way by keeping them in. But I guess you could direct them into somebody's garden if you wanted as well. If you put the boundary in the right place, could you?
Yeah, so I can definitely do that.
Yeah.
So I bought these for a couple of reasons, and primarily, as you said, Neil, people cut my fences a lot. The cattle get out a lot, sort of near the town, and it's just got beyond a joke. So I thought we'd try for that. Also, I do want, when I'm more grown up, to be a bit of a better grazer like James, and I figured this might be a easy route in. But also, you'll have me mention I took on another farm a couple of years ago, and it had been derelict for a long time, and the fences are in really, really bad nick. I'm not in a position where I want to go around doing 100,000 quid's worth of fencing on this farm, but I think I can start grazing it as soon as I get the water sorted out, probably next week using these collars. The fences aren't not there, they're just not great. And I think we could probably get away with it. So there's a lot of wins in here for me, I think.
I think you could, if you were just like really careful on a block of ground, as long as you've got a decent perimeter fence around the whole block, whatever your middle fence is, it's not such a big issue if you've got the collars, is it?
Yeah.
Because you've got them contained.
Except for, so the only thing I'm a bit concerned about is the calves. I haven't seen the calves travel a long way away from the mums just yet. But I could imagine them getting into some of the tracks that bisect the farms that I have, and that being entertaining. We'll see how it goes.
How old do you wean them at?
Really good question, that. And it depends massively on whether they're autumn calvers or spring calvers, when they're females or males, how well they're doing, what the weather's doing, and all that sort of stuff. So the earliest I will ever wean is 7 months.
Yeah.
And the latest I will probably wean is 10.
I guess that's probably,
as late as that.
Yeah, because I think if you were at 7 months, they're probably not going to wander so far, whereas at 10, they're going to be a bit more independent, aren't they? So that becomes a bit more of an issue.
So these ones, there would be sort of October, November born, this group. So I'm thinking about it in the next month or so.
Yeah.
Great. Guys, the last time that we saw each other face-to-face live was at Groundswell.
It was.
So quite an interesting event. Be interesting to hear what we all thought about it. Who wants to go first?
I'm more than happy to go first. Yeah, I was there. I didn't know you guys well. I knew you were going to be there, Neil, because you'd put in the chat that you were going to be there. I didn't know Ben was going to be there. I was there as part of a demos team, doing the bale grazing demos and mob grazing kit demos and things like that. And it was my first proper time. I'd been a couple of years ago, but I was telling somebody I had an unfortunate event where my dog was at the vet's and I was on a panel and I got a phone call whilst I was on the panel to say that my dog was ill. So I just literally hopped off the panel and had to go and have my dog put down. So I didn't really get a good chance to look round. So this time I spent the 2 days there and I really enjoyed it, but I suppose it was a bit more in my wheelhouse. I'm looking obviously with this hot weather, as we've been talking about, things like agroforestry and putting some more trees in to create some shade, because we have absolutely no shade on farm whatsoever. Things like that we thought were really interesting. And I thoroughly enjoyed being part of that sort of event, really.
Yeah. And for my part, I hadn't been before, and I really enjoyed myself. I didn't know what I was expecting, probably something a little similar to it was. Having just come straight from the Royal Highland a couple of weeks before, which is a fantastic show, and just going to say hats off to all the team at the Royal Highland for throwing a really good event there. It was a great place to do business. But I wasn't sure quite what to expect from Groundswell. You hear it's like a hippie farmer event, and I don't think it is a hippie farmer event, to be honest. I think it's a modern farmer event to a greater extent. I will stay longer next year. I will try and engage myself into the evening's festivities as well as the daytime ones. But there are an enormous amount of stands there, and the talks are really, really well supported. Like the tents, so many talks going on all the time. The tents are all rammed. And I'm just going to say hats off to HDB here as well. They actually did a really good job there at Groundswell. They put on some good talks. They had an engaging tent. The staff were attentive, and I do wear an AHDB hat, so I'm going to declare an interest. but credit where credit's due. They did a good job there. So yeah, I'm going back. How about you, Neil? What do you reckon?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the amount of people that said to us you should stay for the evening hospitality bit was incredible. So obviously, I think we probably need to book a tent next year. So a lot of positives. I will confess that I did put in the newsletter piece on the Friday afterwards that I thought it was a cult, and I will stay a little bit. I will stay a little bit. I will stay a little bit on that thread, because I do think so. There was an awful lot of clever people talking, but also an awful lot of people talking without any peer-reviewed science, and it was opinion. And we could be in a dangerous place if too many people run down too many different avenues based on opinion. However, one of the highlights for me was a unit not far away from where Ben is actually selling beef rolls, linked to a pub. And they had a scaffolding above the beef roll unit. James, you may have saw this.
I know exactly where you were, because I had it myself.
Yeah, and they had a band playing on the scaffolding. It created a massive queuing area, because they were telling the rest of the event, we're going to be really busy and we need an orderly queue. And that bit of the event was so good. Food vans all around it were not very busy. There was a massive queue for that one unit, and it was so good. Even the vegans were joining the queue. It was just quite an incredible.
And they were giving out free beer as well if you got up and sang a song, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of good. So I think probably an industry networking event. It's I'd like to see more farmers, but look, that's the first time we've been, and it's been going 10 years. So I think it got a lot of good press again. The DEFRA secretary at that time, who's no longer the DEFRA secretary, was there, and the opposition parties were pretty well represented. So it's an event that's got credence. So I think we'll be back. But I still am leaning to, it was a lot of sandals and shorts and things that are a bit cult-led, perhaps. So,
yeah, I kind of see your point now. I left my sandals at home for that event, but I know what you mean. You can go to one extreme, and I suppose it is a much of a muchness with the kind of people that you get involved in there, and you can go. It's like a certain edge of the industry, isn't it? And then it's like out from there, as opposed to the whole industry view. But there's a lot to be learned there, and some of the talks and the people that they have on are brilliant. I listened to a couple, and very, very interesting things that they were coming out with. But again, ones with the science were fantastic, like really, really clever.
Yeah. You didn't. To be fair, you didn't have to go far without bumping into somebody you knew. Yeah. So that, I think that says quite a bit about the event, probably. So.
And with that cultish thing, Neil, and you're right, and I take your point on that. Other farming events we go to are kind of cultish in the other way. It's kind of two different ends of the industry, really, and it's kind of interesting to have to listen to this one side, which I've never really engaged with as much as I probably should have done before. So I was altogether really impressed with it.
Oh yeah, and no negative, not saying anything negative about regen farming or anything like that. And to your point, Ben, that I suppose check shirts and shuffles are a different type of cult, if we want to look at it from that point of view. So we just mentioned the former DEFRA secretary. Of course, it's been all change in the government this week, but the latest announcement is that if there is a bus drives past anywhere close to where you live, it's going to cost you £1 less to go on it than it did yesterday or last week. So, joking apart, let's see where this government leads us. It's a new government. I'm going to stand against one of the main political journalists in the UK, Beth Rigby from Sky News, who was, basically decrying Andy Burnham on Tuesday. What day is this? Monday was to be, because he had got rid of all the previous Prime Minister's allies. Well, what else was he supposed to do, I guess? And I think he had to start with a clean sheet. So
yeah, and I'm really glad to see Angela Eagle back in the mix. I thought that whilst she's not from a farming background, when she was in charge of food and farming, she was really engaged. and she was a good listener. She was keen to learn, and actually she asked some damn good questions and gave some really good answers as well. So although she's not in charge of our brief anymore, I'm glad that that level of enthusiasm and knowledge hasn't been lost. I just wonder how long Miss Morgan stays in position. I haven't really got a grip on the member for Portsmouth South being in charge of the farming lobby just yet, but I guess we have to give him a chance.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much different it is to Walsall East, but that's an argument for a different day. But my point would be, and Ben, you're right, we had a very engaging meeting with Dame Angela Eagle, and she knew her brief incredibly well. However, she would not go on farm, and she would not go to events. And Stephen Morgan has already been at numerous events, and I believe he's going to the sheep event next week. So he gets a bit of credence from me for at least going to try and learn about the industry. So, and Emma Reynolds, before she moved to whatever, Chief Secretary to the Treasury or what her new role is, she was keen to get out and about. And I think it's important for those politicians that are, whilst they're maybe the civil servants that are writing and driving policy, they countersign it or they oversign it, however you want to look at it. They need to go out and see how the industry operates.
Yeah, good point, well made.
So, but yeah, we'll wait and see. It was quite exciting, I think, on Monday evening, watching people flow in and out of down the street, waiting to see what jobs they did or did not get. So.
Yeah, and I think we've all heard it before from Andy Burnham before he was Prime Minister, saying that he is a bit more of a friend of the farmer and so on and so forth. So it'd be interesting to see how much of a friend of the farmer he turns out to be, won't it? So
so I remember the former Prime Minister going to, I think it was the NFU conference, telling us all how much he liked farmers and how losing a farm wasn't like losing other businesses and all that. And then before you know it, I guess that relationship between number 10 and number 11 is probably what makes or breaks the government. It's just not one or the other. And I can't help but feeling Rachel from Accounts wasn't someone who had a great deal of love for food production. And I'm hoping that changes now.
Yeah, they continue to tell us that food security equals national security, yet England is the only country within the whole area of the EU that gets no direct support to produce food. And no indication that will change anytime soon. And, the early indications are that the SFI that was open for smaller holdings or those that had not been involved before, it's basically maxed out already.
Yeah, I think I had an email. I mean, I don't needing to reply at the minute because we're already in the scheme, but I'm sure it was 75% full already. So by the time this podcast comes out, it might be 100%, and then, God knows where it goes from there.
Yeah. So I had a bit of engagement about that as well, and it turned out that there was a whole bunch of people who were sort of chomping at the bit, and so that 70-odd% got filled up instantly. But then it tailed off quite rapidly, so it didn't rush to the 100 at the same rate. And with the next window being in September, at least we know when it is. Well, in theory, as long as their minds don't change between now and then, of course, but at least we know when it is. So there's a little bit of surety in our businesses that we can plan now a little bit. So I'm coming out of some SFIs at the end of this year, and my understanding is that I've got a planning meeting with my agent next week, and we'll start building what we're going to be looking at to buy in September to start in January.
Yeah, and have you changed your mind on anything, Ben? Because obviously a lot of the payments have changed. Stuff like herbal lays has dropped dramatically. I know you were struggling to establish some of your herbal lays, but are you thinking differently?
Thanks for reminding me, James. I actually went to another event the other day, another AHTB event about how to establish herbal lays better, and I hopefully have learned a few things since my last attempt, and we'll have another bash for sure. So, I don't know what the next one's going to look like for me. I had quite a lot of advanced overwintered stubble, which I'm really grateful for, because over these last really poor harvests, it's actually been my best paying crop by far. Wow. The payment rate on that has also dropped, and the area you can submit has also dropped. So hence the meeting with my agent, we're going to have to go through it quite carefully and try and recover as much of that payment as we can do without damaging the farming business. I've also got all of my grass is in the GS2, which are the countryside stewardship, and that's a complication having two schemes running side by side. It's I know why it happened, but it's unhelpful. That's also finishing this year. So we're going to have to look quite hard at what we can do with some of the grassland, because I do graze extensively because I've got far more grass having taken on this other farm than I have barn space. The options for overwintering here are quite limited. My heifers can overwinter, but with all the flint we have, the ground just won't take. I don't think it would take a small cow, let alone some of my Charolais and Solairs and stuff. So we have more grass than we do barn space. So we're going to have to find a way of hopefully working within the SFI and maximising the potential of that. But I will report back when I know what it looks like. But right now, it is in a pre-planning stage.
I see an argument, Ben. You need to get more cows.
I do. I need to put up more barns. And buying cows and putting up barns are both moderately expensive things.
They are at the minute.
So they are. I am increasing my cow numbers, no question. So over the last 4 years, and bearing in mind I was starting from a low base because I did sell the adult portion of my herd, and I'm now building back up again. And I'm about sort of 80% of where I want to get at, I guess. Another 10 or 15 cows is going to probably take me to where I can comfortably manage over winter. And then maybe we will have to look at another way of maybe keeping the dry cows over winter. The spring calvers, it just won't be walking around on our flinty hills, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean that's two of us, Ben, and we're looking at expanding cows as well. So yeah, that's good news for the beef industry at least. Where someone's picking up the slack.
Yeah. No, that's the trend we want everyone to buy into. So yeah. I've not looked, guys. I don't know if you had. Well, not looked that far ahead. Is anyone, James, with your 50 days grazing cycle, you'll probably have a look at the long-term weather forecast. Is there any rain planned in the foreseeable future?
Oh well, they've lied to me once already because they told me it'd be raining by now. So I'm not sure. Well, yeah, they keep saying it's going to come changeable, but every time you go and look on, 'cause it's sort of in 2 week stints, isn't it? It like goes back 2 weeks. So. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't got a clue whether it's actually going to turn up or not. But yeah, it's they keep telling us it will, but whether it does or it doesn't, I'm not sure. But sometimes I wonder how we're supposed to grow grass now, because we have the wettest, coldest, horrible winters, which doesn't grow any grass. I think we had 2 kilos of grass growth a week or something like that a day here over winter. And then we have a short spring where we grow a load, and then it gets dry and hot, and then it doesn't grow again. You're like, what time of year are we supposed to grow it? But I guess the challenge we've got to come across, I think.
My forecast is telling me we should get something around 3.2 millimetres of rain on Sunday. I'm not going to set my clock by that. I don't believe it'll happen when it does. And if it does happen, that amount, I mean, I'm not going to say no because it'll stop it getting any drier for a little bit, but it's not actually going to do anything other than dampen down some of the dust, I don't think. We need a few inches, don't we?
Yeah, it's just, like I always say, it's regular. I just want regular rain. It can be hot and dry if it wants 6 days of the week. Just give me a wet day and then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
So that's all we need.
I think there's a bit of a conspiracy. So our area, so let's say RG postcode area, it's showing basically 29 degrees for the next 10 or 11 days. And my conspiracy belief is that means it's not a heat wave because it's not 30 degrees. So, yeah, I mean, hey, normally when the schools break up for the holidays, the weather goes bananas. So, there's a chance that something might happen in the next week or so, maybe. So
yeah, your area and mine, Neil. Oh, sorry, James.
No, go on.
Your area and mine, Neil. We're both in hosepipe bans now, aren't we? So Thames Water, that's gone into one.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, James.
No, we're not in a hosepipe ban yet. Not that I know of. Not that I use it, but I mean, we take a bit of water in all our grass, but we're not in a hosepipe ban at the minute. But I was going to say, have you noticed? Back when we used to grow arable crops and I used to drive the combine, I can remember fighting to try and get harvest done every single year. You'd go and do 1 or 2 days and then it'd rain for a week, and then sometimes your combine would be parked in the field corner for 3 weeks, and it just doesn't seem to happen anymore, does it? It's just, you just get on, you drive, and because it's dead 6 weeks earlier than you should be, and then it's such a strange thing, but it seems to have changed very rapidly.
And these arable guys that normally get 8-9 months holidays of the year, they're going to get 10 months this year.
Yeah, well, that's it. They'll be able to go skiing in the southern hemisphere.
Right. Oh, so the only positive I can take out of this is at least we're not having to dry our grain this year. With diesel prices being up a little bit as they are, that would get pretty dear. But we are having to cool it off. It's going in the barn's hot and it's having to be blown just to stop it heating up. Hence, me getting rid of some that's going straight off the combine. I actually sold, in addition to what I said earlier in the show, I sold a few tons last week to before I'd even harvested it to go straight off the combine and get away, give me some cash flow, but take away that headache of storing hot grain.
Yeah, because that's it. It's like being dry is one thing, but it's hot as well. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a harvest like that one year again, and we don't wish it on any of these guys. I mean, I grew up in Aberdeenshire in 1985 and 87. 1985 was the year that put a lot of people out of business. The sort of winter barley harvest lasted, for weeks and weeks and weeks, and combines were stuck and being pulled out, and grain was being taken in at 35% moisture,
Wow.
in a peak like that in the top of a trailer. It was horrific. So we don't wish that, but when it goes this dry, it brings different challenges, I guess. So
Yeah.
and it is a
And
safety
fire.
aspect. Absolutely, yeah. There's a big safety aspect there. So guys, I think that kind of brings us to the end. This was always intended to be quite a short, snappy update. We are hoping to go again very soon, with Sarah Tomlinson being our special guest and covering all the recent developments in the new TB strategy, and the reset on that. It will be an informative podcast, and it's emotive, as we know, a subject for a lot of people that have been deeply involved in it. I can tell you that James and Ben were both involved in the strategy in various groups, so have had an input. So collectively between them and Sarah, we'll get a lot of useful information on how it progressed, and what we believe the good, bad and ugly bits of the outcomes are.
Yeah. So teaser, Neil. So Sarah's brilliant. She knows more about TV than just about anyone. She's utterly fantastic. I am probably as grumpy as anyone, having been involved with two of the TV consultations. The way it was rolled out and some of the content, I'm hoping Sarah can educate me and make me a little less grumpy. But it was a month or so ago now that press conference came out, and I've been grumpy ever since. And yes, I'm a grumpy middle-aged farmer, so obviously I've been grumpy ever since. But I've actually been specifically grumpy about this. So hoping that Sarah can calm me right down.
Yeah.
Could be a punchy conversation.
James, are you grumpy about it?
Am I grumpy about it? I think the parts that I was involved in, we did get a fair chunk of what we were asking for, which I think was good. It's such an emotive issue, as you say. It's difficult to knowing what's right by science and knowing what's right on farm, and then being sort of torn between the two is a really difficult thing to try and juggle. And I think there is progress to be made. It potentially could have been better, but I think it's also really good. What we have achieved and where it's going. So I'm not going to say I'm grumpy. I'm not elated, but I think we're on a track, which is good.
And interesting that Dame Angela Eagle, who would have driven this policy, has now ended up in the head of the whole DEFRA organisation, so still is going to have some responsibility for this and in her tenure in that role. Just to finish on that point, I see in Wales they're having discussion about the viability of having a call to reduce the transmission of disease through wildlife in Wales. Isn't it just incredible what a change of colour of government can do to an industry? And it always makes me wonder if our food production and all our agricultural system should be governed on a relatively small island, in one direction. So, and on that note, we probably better say, good afternoon and good night before Big Brother's listening there from Whitehall and pulls the plug on me.
And there's a can of worms. Yeah, we'll be going for another hour, I think.
Yeah. Great. Right, guys, great stuff. And all those listening, tune in next time for a TB update. Thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Nice one. Cheers, guys.
See you in a bit.